Right, we're back. We are still taking a look at what is happening on the dailies with Jesse Kimotho. So continue telling us what is happening. Jesse, you were telling me something to do with the CJ while we were off the record. What is the CJ on the Business Daily? The story by the CJ is on page 2. So for those who are having the papers, Kome stops MPs grilling of Judiciary over the CFO job. That is also replicated all across from the second page of the Business Daily, also in the Daily Nation. What are they saying? What is the CJ saying?
So this is a classic battle that's kind of happened since time immemorial, especially like with Uhuru's rise to power. This is the judiciary versus the legislature. So we're having a very, 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 very strong, kind of disagreement between the Parliament. So this is through the PSC committee. They've given Anna Madi summons, kind of a retaliation for the judiciary's inquiry into Parliament. We know for a fact that Martha Koome just came in. She's looking to build up steam. She's looking to show Kenyans, that the judiciary can move. So, she's been undertaking very many major reforms in the judiciary. So we've had she's mandated all the judges to take personal responsibility for case progression, prioritizing corruption cases, and we know that Parliament is a very top contender in most of these cases. A lot of governors, such as Okoth Obado, on the spot of his own cases on a personal level over the murder
members of Parliament like Babu.
Exactly. So Parliament's way of kind of kicking back is to cut funding to the judiciary. So this is a war that has been going on since Maraga's time. So she's already facing challenges.
Is this something she should have expected?
Of course. It's like when you're dealing with Parliament, they will work very hard to make your life very frustrating. We know for a fact it's taken a while for a lot of the public officers within the judiciary to be confirmed. So there are very many different frustrations that are happening. One that are not legal. So the judiciary is really just fighting for its power as an arm of the government in this case. So we wish Martha Koome the best. She has been doing a good job. She was at one of our sister schools, Alliance Girls, on Sunday.
Playing chess.
Yeah.
Trying to bond with the kids.
Yeah, so we know she's trying on so many different levels.
Something interesting that I was seeing here is that at least 10 officers, what they're saying, 10 officers who are holding senior positions in the judiciary, including the failure to hire a finance director, are some of those issues. The judiciary apparently has not had a finance director for 7 years, a position that is supposed to actually be there and mandated to be in operation. And 10 officers are still holding these positions in acting capacity. Is this a failure of the judiciary or of Maraga, or facilitation from the government or from other arms of the government?
Yeah, this is facilitation from the government. Again, looking at Uhuru's most recent refusal to confirm judges, we see a kind of direct trickle-down effect. We know the Judiciary Service Committee HR department has been frustrated. They've, in CJ Koome's letter, which is available for the public to read, you see that she's coming out, very specifically against very specific bodies and people within these bodies. We know she came out, said some unsavory things about LSK. So we know for a fact Nelson Harvey is going to have words with her soon, and we really like the steam she's coming with. She's coming off as this leader who is not afraid to go after the big hitters, not afraid to say the things that need to be said. And really, I think as the Wananchi, what we can do is give her support. We know that the judiciary's role has been very much underrated over the past years.
And undermined at a very
yes. So following the most recent wins, Maraga's annulment of the election last, these hallmark changes not only have a big effect in Kenya alone, but in Africa as well. We know, for example, when Maraga made annulled the election in 2017, Malawi came in and kind of did the same landmark ruling on their side. So we should look at ourselves not just as within the scope of our country, but the continent
also
as a whole.
Setters.
Yeah.
And talking of pace setting, Safaricom went into Ethiopia, and that you can find on the second page. Of course, Safaricom's Lipa na M-Pesa generates 40 million per month. That's what they're saying. But that's not what we're interested in this morning. On the Business Daily, that's still on the second page. Yeah. So Safaricom's mobile payment platform that is used to pay for goods, that is the Lipa na M-Pesa, is now at 40 million monthly, highlighting the impact of increased preference for cashless transactions. Yeah. So now, what I'm interested in, apart from the fact that Safaricom is making a lot of money, now that you're here, we're discussing business as well as the politics that are in the business, in the business itself. Safaricom is going into Ethiopia in a place, it's a conversation we had last week, but I'd love to know your thoughts. Yeah. So Safaricom is going into Ethiopia, where millions of Ethiopians are have been displaced, as according to what I read on the weekend news, as well as thousands who have either lost their family or lost their lives. Is there a moral or legal obligation to companies, especially who are going into such an environment, and in the face of them continuing to make so many profits? I understand this is a private company, so they really do not have that obligation, but is there a line where the moral code of conduct is drawn?
Yeah, I think while we're on the topic of business ethics, one thing we usually look at, an easy way out for corporations to be involved, especially like politically or socially, is what we call CSR. That is corporate social responsibility. Beyond that, so that is, we are talking about like a lot of the work that maybe Safaricom has done with the M-Pesa schools. But beyond that, I think a business's main aim is looking at the commercial viability of, the moves that they make. So I think Safaricom, what is happening in Safaricom is something very similar to what is happening with Apple in the UK right now. So for Apple, what they're having is a $7 billion patent pending lawsuit against a company called Optis over the cellular technology that they're using. And Apple have threatened to leave the UK market if this issue is not resolved. So we are looking at certain cases where corporates, when they move, they can have a big impact, especially like over what is happening locally within the scene. For Safaricom and their movement into Ethiopia, I don't think that situation is within their control. We know Ethiopia has a long and complicated political history, especially one related to tribal politics. We know for a fact that Kenya has a higher democratic index according to the Polity4 index. So circumstances are going to be very different. This is again Safaricom's first move into the international market. So, compared to other players like MTN, Vodafone, they're not particularly, they're new to this game. They're the newest kid on the block. However, Safaricom has a lot going for it in terms of government backing. We know that Safaricom is Kenya's biggest taxpayer. True. So the government has a lot riding on this particular expansion as well. We also know that Safaricom, again, has been one of the companies that has been affected by the 20% increase in excise duty. Excise duty being, the tax levied on the manufacture and production of goods and services, digital or physical. So we can probably expect a corresponding increase in the government's revenue. You get more money, you pay more taxes. So
we get more money as well.
Yeah. So and again, linked back to the story of the government needing to expand its income stream. So this could, when you look at what Safaricom has going for it, there's a lot happening. There's a lot, that probably, again, Safaricom has been trying to increase, its relationship with its users in a good light. So we want to see, we're very interested in seeing how Safaricom plans on cushioning the user, on the retail level. We've seen them
but then they're not at this very moment, because with the new increase in with the excise duty that just came in, and of course the new budget that is seeking to push some prices of basic commodities, we have seen messages from various, even from M-Shwari. What I'm seeing here, it's no longer smooth sailing from M-Shwari, from data bundles, from airtime, all the way to banking. We're seeing an increase in prices as well, based off the excise duty that was just introduced. Anything that Kenyans are really confused there. So is there anything really positive that Safaricom can do at this point?
Again, just to take you back to my main point, a company's or a business's main aim is to make profit. So I wouldn't, in as much as I have my own qualms with Safaricom on their tariffs and how much they charge their users relative to other telco providers in Kenya, I think they've really done a good job in terms of insulating the user from a lot of the economic backlash that, for example, COVID has caused. So we know, for example, Safaricom removed the the Lipa na M-Pesa / money transfer charges a while back, a year back, and then reviewed that the costs to what was lower before COVID. So whereas you would pay 12 shillings to transfer maybe an amount between 1 to 1,000, now you would pay 6 shillings. However, there's only so much you can do while again maintaining your profit margin.
Right.
So in this case, we're seeing what is possibly a very standard business move, where if you're being forced to pay more to the government in terms of tax revenue, then of course there has to be a trickle-down effect back to the user.
All right, so what else do we have there? Maybe sports, anything from the world of sport business, anything on the Daily Nation?
Some very disappointing from our papers is the inability to feature what is happening, especially with the Nigerian basketball team playing the USA team on an international level. We've seen a lot of,
and that's at the back of the Daily Nation.
We're seeing a lot of local news, which is very well and good, commendable. We're looking at the local Premier League. We have progressing quite well, despite again the usual issues with FKF, KFA,
KFF.
Yeah, but a lot of exciting news, especially for football fans. The trophies have come back home.
Wow. Where is home?
Not England. Not England. We know Messi, especially on the Nation page number 37. Messi, dedicating the trophy that he won from the Copa America Cup to his family. We've seen Italy, Mancini and Chiellini, the captain of the Italian team, coming back home with the trophy. England, very salty, very sour. America, very salty, very sour as well on the loss to the Nigerian
team. It's a shame for you to be a country that is so much into basketball and then lose to Nigeria.
Yeah, we've seen Stephen A. Smith, especially
lose to anyone really.
There's what we know call it exceptionalism, which is the idea that countries see themselves, especially like for America, England, as the best country in the world. So this is for this country, this very threatening move, especially for a country that really embraces basketball.
Right?
Yeah. So it's a pity that this has evolved into a social issue. Sports is essentially even the origin of the word means a competition in camaraderie. So it's a very kind of friendly competition, but in these instances we are seeing heavy backlash, a lot of unsavory comments being thrown about. But I think locally we have much to celebrate. The Kenyan Lionesses, the basketball team, are doing very well. Seeing them progress through the international series of championships, and of course the PL, the local PL, doing really well, despite again not having the fan base active or there for their live matches.
Right, now let's move to the Standard from the Daily Nation. I'm trying to take a look at the Standard so that I can also get to the Financial Standard. I don't know, Jesse, maybe I can hand you the Financial Standard to be taking a look at that as well, as we take a look at what is the headlines. The headlines, the first thing I'm seeing on the headlines of the Standard is CJ Koome firing her shot. Of course, if you want to take a look at what her letter details there, you can see it on page 8 of the Standard. Page 8 of the Standard still has Koome there, and I'm seeing so many other stories. Sharon's painful death, of course, that story that we just mentioned. Governor Okoth Obado, who is still in office following her, following the trial that is still ongoing. That is what is on the first page, right? So CJ Koome still on the top. Gideon Moi's call to Raila on alliance. Also there, including the CJ story that we just said. Right, then the Euros as well at the back, which is something that we've also mentioned there. Lionel Messi, of course, people are saying now it's definite. He's the best player.
Yeah, it's official. Yeah, he's the GOAT amongst GOATs. I'm in the studio. Come fight me. Right,
I was supposed to hand you the Financial Standard so that we can have a look. On this, there's a regulatory issue that is still, still battling CMA. I don't know whether I've taken a look at this story before.
Yeah, so especially this has come to light, especially with the recent story about Saiton investments, and a lot of people complaining about the risk of losing money. you know, and there's a lot of call for the CMA to tighten its regulatory belt. You know, the last time we saw something like this was when crypto entered the market. A lot of people lost money to scammers, to a lot of these, you know, kind of weird pyramid schemes. We know CMA has not been doing a really good job, especially on regulating, you know,
and that's on page 3 of the financial standard. Yeah, I hope we can have that on the screen. Very interesting cartoon as well, somewhere there. Right.
So capital markets was the next big thing that was especially touted by Saiton in investment. We know for a fact that a lot of the retail investors, you know, people like me and you, perhaps not the Chris Kirubi type of investors, who have been shorted, because you know what especially happened with the Saiton issue was they took a lot of you know, the money that especially was lost was taken from the retail investors and not the people who actually had money. So a lot of people especially were affected by this. So we're seeing over like 1,000 different retail investors. They even started a WhatsApp group. We've seen a lot of noise on Twitter. You know, they're lawyering up, trying to see if they can get their money back. Unfortunately, I don't think, you know, this case will go that far.
Is this a regulatory issue?
It's definitely a regulatory issue. The CMA is responsible. You know, similarly the way we have, you know, regulatory authorities that regulate stock trading, you know, just to prevent this kind of issues from happening. The capital markets luckily has not been such a major player, especially in the investment scene. So fortunately, the amount of losses, especially to retail investors, has been mitigated. However, there is a really big issue, especially when it comes to the, you know, with the development of technology. We're seeing a lot of new ways to invest. Genghis Capital. Last week you had Peter Oloch.
I had Peter Oloch,
who was talking about the stock, you know, investing in the stock market. So we were seeing a lot of retail investment being made available to Kenyans, and it is during this time that it's very important that these new policies are formulated, that we work to protect, you know, the
investors
people,
who are
and this
putting
new,
in the money.
And this new industry, especially because of the amount of returns that can be obtained for all the players involved.
On page 29 of the standard, even as we try and you know, wind it up a bit, I'm seeing Kenya ranks high in inequality among African peers. So what they're saying there is earnings among the richest 10% increased from 36% since 1999 to 58% in 2006, while the poorest 10% of the population received less than 1%. So Kenya is among the countries in Africa with high inequality levels in terms of assets, economic, gender, social, and labor market. We are ranking high in inequality. Is this what could be happening? I thought our economy is growing.
This kind of disparities, you know, traditional, especially if you look at countries such as South Africa, have been, you know, linked to, you know, much more deep-seated issues. So if you look at South Africa, because that is the country that's leading in terms of the inequality index, then you look at issues such as race, apartheid, that cause this inequality, and, you know, it's kind of a white versus black issue. And when
even land issues, especially
land. So if you look at Kenya, especially when it comes to inequality, we want to look at the longer term issues that have kind of influenced this kind of, or created this kind of disparity. In Kenya, there are two main reasons. The first, I guess, which you can guess, is corruption. Graft has been such a big issue, especially graft on a legacy scale. You know,
legacy scale, that's an interesting term to use.
I'm trying to mention names without mentioning names.
There's legacy corruption that is handed down from
your father to you. And Kenya has been such a we've experienced such a huge problem in that regard. So much so that, you know, even when we talk about, you know, inflation, if we talk about the increased cost of living, even economic, whenever we talk about an economic boom, the trickle down effect is almost always never there. So what that means is the wealth, whenever
it's not getting to the
it's never. So the poorer keep getting poorer, and the rich keep getting richer.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a very big issue. Unfortunately, it can only be handled from the top down, you know. Otherwise, we'll end up with a situation that happened, you know, with the French Revolutionary War. Queen Mary Antoinette, when she said to the people, let them eat cake, they revolted. Yeah, so we're hoping it doesn't get to that.
Are you trying to send a subtle message?
Viva.
Right. Yeah. Now that you've mentioned South Africa, I was on, I think on the Business Daily, there was a story, the third page. I don't know whether we can get that real quick before we, finally wind up now. On the third page there, we had arrests that were happening, riots that were happening in South Africa because former President Zuma turned himself into the authorities to serve his 15-month sentence for, I think, contempt of court. I think that was the reason. Dozens of people were arrested in South Africa who had, gone on attacks. There was violence there, and that is on the streets as a 79-year-old Zuma was handing himself over to the authorities. More than 60 people I'm seeing here were arrested on Sunday who are armed with sticks, golf clubs, branches, and all of that. Shame. Right. What do you think? Is this something that can... I didn't think, first of all, I didn't think Zuma could hand himself over to the authorities. And that's something. But is this something that we can see viva all across the continent?
The story is told, especially in America, of when notorious gangster Al Capone was arrested by the US government. So the funniest thing is the charges they actually got him on was not robbery with violence, not for robbing banks. It was for tax evasion.
Wow. So they looked for something.
Yeah, what's the moral of the story? Zuma has been involved in a myriad of different cases. If you look at the famous McKinsey/Gupta brothers case, where illegal tenders were given, a lot of kickbacks as well at that time. This is not particularly what we expected Zuma to go in for. Contempt of court for 15 months. No, Zuma
he has much more.
Zuma definitely deserves more time for different crimes. We might see this as kind of parley with the government. So he's like 15 months. You know what? I'll take it.
So that the people can.
It's better than life.
Right.
It's better than life.
And for us, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. So for Kenya, if you wanna bring that back home, we had the Mwaluki trial, especially for the NYS cases and that was in fact one of the only high-level cases where we saw actual prosecution for actual crimes. So this is SA's take on that. We know SA traditionally, especially like on things that are not violence issues, that is things that don't see popular support on a national level. We know that especially when it comes to issues such as xenophobia, there's a lot of violence that usually happens on the streets. We have a lot of that happening just as well. SA is also having different issues, especially linked to its education system. We've seen a lot of university students coming up, rising up against what they term to be colonial education systems. So there's a lot of tension, not just with the Zuma case, but with other issues surrounding, socio-political issues. So it's a really tough time to be in SA.
Right, and it's also tougher to be in Kinyaga. Right? If my camera person can get page 27 of... now, this is the last story I'm taking a look at, which is really interesting. The Standard on page 27. Bogi Genji gang members are terrorizing residents during curfew. That is the headline there on page 27 of the Standard. So a new criminal gang that is donning mohawk hairstyles and calling themselves Bogi Genji is terrorizing residents. The gang comprises of youth between the age of 16 and 20 who are posing as boda riders. Yeah? So it looks like Bogi Genji are the one who are taking phones from us on the roads and even police officers. That's an interesting story since we already talked about cases of insecurity in the country. Anything that you have to say about this very funny story?
The only Bogi Genji I know, you can find them on YouTube, but it looks like there's another gang in town that is...
doing their thing.
Yeah, we call it in Sheng wanapeana viding. So I think especially on issues surrounding curfew, we know traditionally, especially when it comes to the CBD, the areas of Kayole, Eastlands where I grew up, these are issues that have kind of been there for a while. However, I think this isn't particularly true. The same could be said of police officers. There's a video doing rounds about some youth who are in a PlayStation, area in one of Nairobi's urban neighborhoods, and you see, police coming in very maliciously, to give them Ngumi Mbweg's Day. So this is, I think there's more to this story than meets the eye. We know also border riders have also been involved in cases of insecurity, robbery with violence. I myself, around a year ago, had my phone snatched
by a border rider.
Yeah. So these issues are real. However, the police should probably just come in and do the actual jobs for once.
That's true. So as I went up, let me just say two things. Of course, there are opportunities that are all there in the newspapers. First thing I'm seeing here is Uniters, the one that got popular past 2 weeks ago,
for selling smokies inside
the banking hall.
Yeah.
Did you read the story behind it?
They were promoting local SMEs. Yeah. So I think I should probably leave Equity and start an account with Uniters.
True, and now they've received 1 billion from a Dutch firm to lend it out to SMEs. So about 5,000 of farmers groups that are linked to Uniters are going to get a distribution of this 1 billion. So if you're a farmer out there and you're banking with Uniters, very good news for you. You can see if you are eligible for that 1 billion that has been given to the Uniters Circle. A lot of opportunities I'm seeing here on the daily, so make sure that you check it out and see how to benefit from that. In Nakuru, where you also come from, the Nakuru County government is set to relocate a slaughterhouse in Naivasha to pave way for the construction of 2,400 affordable housing units. Public housing has been quite a discussion in Kenya. We haven't hit the nerve yet. Maybe as we wind up, is there a way we can achieve that?
Yeah, if you look at traditional public housing units, especially around the Jerusalem area in Nairobi, there has been, there's always historically been issues, especially now related to corruption, because 2,400 houses does not cut it for the 300,000 plus people
who are living there.
Yeah, within the area. Let alone if you are to look at the whole homeless population that encompasses Kenya. So, good move by the Naivasha County government, the Nakuru County government. We know that they did reap, in a rather large way from the WRC Safari Rally. Hopefully, they can get off of the same launch pad, do some good work. I know Liki Nyanjui is very well loved in his region. My grandmother, I know, definitely cast her vote in that direction. So, we are seeing, if this can be pulled off correctly, this could be a very good launch pad even for him to come in next year's general election, possibly, facing off against Susan Kihika. I think that's also a piece that you can catch in the Daily Nation today. Right. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having this awesome review with me this morning.
Yeah, as always, it's a pleasure to be here, Richard.
I hope that we can have you as many times as possible on Biashara Tuesday before you go back, of course, to Yale. What are we looking forward from you as you go back to Yale? As I go on a break.
As an artist / political scientist.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about your art. Plug in shamelessly.
That is controversial. Go check it out on Instagram. It's very political as well.
Right.
Might put you in a lot of trouble, but hey, I guarantee you it's gonna be worth it. As always, read your papers, be informed. This country is yours. So act like you
act like you own it.
Act like you own it.
Right. That was Jesse Kimotho. Of course, we can't ever have enough time to have discussions here with Jesse Kimotho. Lovely to have a discussion on the newspaper. If you're just joining in right now, we were doing a newspaper review all across the Business Daily, the Daily Nation, as well as the Standard with Jesse Kimotho. So you can check out what we just discussed. It's live on Facebook. Roll back a few minutes ago on KUTV